Good morning. Hi, baby. First one on, of course. Of course, he is my people, Mr. Bibster. Just sharing this around. All right. So if you're here, say hello. Let me get me back to where I need to be. Boy, oh boy. Lots of stuff happening in the Facebook world, isn't it? Goodness, goodness. Goodness, goodness, goodness. So we're going to put this up so I can see who is coming on here. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Man, there's a lot going on in the Facebook world. Just crazy with how many people have loved ones who are sick, people who have loved ones who are battling with family. Just so much happening. So much happening. And what I notice is that a lot of stuff like this creates, man, a lot of bitterness, right? When things happen, when we lose loved ones, when loved ones are sick in the hospital and we see no rhyme or reason for it. We don't understand why it's happening. And believe me, I've been there. So there's no judgment here. There's no judgment here. I've done it. Or maybe you feel like, wow, you just got through one thing and here you are going through something else, right? Is that not it? That's life, y'all? That's life. Molly, I don't understand it. I just got better with this. Now my kids are sick, Molly. Now my kids are sick. What is going on here? Well, what I'm going to tell you is, what are we thankful for there? We are thankful that you were sick, you got by it, so now you're there to take care of your kids. Sometimes you got to look for that little light in the midst of all the crud, right? You have to. It's hard to find. It's hard to find sometimes. Life is not easy, and people who have been following me for a long time, they're like, oh my gosh, I know, Molly, you say that all the time. Life is not easy. No, life is not always easy. But you know what, guys? It's not always hard either. It's not always hard either. But we get so caught up in the hard. We get so caught up in what's going on in that moment of what we're going through, whether it's a loved one who was sick or the loss of a loved one, that sometimes it takes away from things that are there to be grateful for. But it's so hard to grab it sometimes. I was reading today, somebody posted that there was a young man, I believe it was Kim Scott, that there was a young man, 20 years old. And can I tell you, I didn't even know the young man, but I was curious and I went and I looked up the backstory on his passing, and you know where you can go and people are, talking about that person. This was a 20-year-old young man. Prime of his life? No, really just starting his life. But in 20 years, this young man that I don't know, so let me be clear, I don't know who he is. I would have known nothing about this if Kim Scott had not posted about the fact that this young man was struck down in the prime of his life. But what I noticed was how many people that he had already touched in his 20 years. I know people who have been so overcome with bitterness and hate and always feeling like poor, poor, pitiful me, that they are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and they are the most narcissistic people that I know of. And yet here is a young man who, although God received him after this terrible accident, he had touched so many lives that he had brought goodness into somebody's life, and that's what it's about. I mean, if you want to know how you can make an impact in this life, man, you've got to be out there looking to make the impact. What can you do? Where is your faith in yourself and what you can do for other people? Are you always looking for the next person to wrong you? That's something that people do. And by the way, there I've caught myself doing that after being wronged by somebody or something, or you feel like somebody was talking about you, and you get your feelings hurt, and or somebody did something to try to hurt you, right? Right? Like that's what happens. Like you just want to get all negative. And I need you to know I get it. I get it because I've been there. Believe me, there is nothing that I bring here that I have not experienced myself. By the way, some of that stuff is stuff that you're going to experience the rest of your life. But what you hope is that you're going to learn how to deal with it better. Because if you let bitterness creep in and you let it sit and root, right? Root. Like you hear me say all the time, it's okay to feel that way. Don't unpack there. Don't unpack there. How many times have I said it? How many times have I wrote it? Don't. How many of you have talked to me? Hi, Steph. Good to see you, doll. Oh, I'm so glad you're on here. How many times have you heard me say, look, it's okay to feel that way. You feel betrayed. You feel like somebody doesn't care. You feel like somebody like betrayed your friendship, your trust. You feel like, what the company you're with, they're not doing something right. It's okay to feel that way. It's not okay to stay there. Don't unpack there. Don't unpack in the things that you know are not going to feed into the goodness of you. Because if you do, before you know it, there is less goodness because all those weeds of bitterness and anger and just being literally pissed off, they root and they start strangling out all the goodness that is inside of you. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to let people or things just step on your neck and take advantage of you. And God doesn't say you be a good person now. You let them walk all over you, and while you're at it, let them do it 3 or 4 times. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. Good morning, Janice. Never since day one, Stephanie. Do you know, I'm just going to stop here for a moment and squirrel, and I'm going to say that Stephanie, during the time that I thought these weren't making much of an impact, and I was probably a year into it at the time, and I thought, I don't know, I know I'm getting a lot of replays, but not a lot of people like in the moment, and people are busy. I get it. It is what it is. They ain't going to stop making their dollar, right, to stop and listen to me. They ain't stupid. And Stephanie, I will never forget, actually private messaged me and said, are you going to bring back the Molly moments? She says, I know I don't always get on live, and a lot of that's my fault because I'm not always on time. Sometimes things happen and I don't do it when I'm supposed to. She says, because I really look forward to it. And I remember asking God, could you show me? Could you show me if this is even making a difference? I'm putting these on YouTube. I'm sharing it in all the places that I believe that maybe people need to hear some of this. Could you please, and boy, don't you know, here comes Miss Stephanie to say, I need you to know that these make a difference. And she said, sometimes I can't get on live, but I need you to know, I go back and I look for them. And she says, and I haven't seen them. And she's so funny because she's so courteous. She's the sweetest thing ever. She always, have I missed it? Did I miss it? Is there a link to it? And I knew daggone well that I hadn't done it, right? Right? And I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. But see, what happens is the devil and people who don't like me would love would love for me to feel like there is no usefulness in this. They would love for me to stop trying to help people by sharing my stories or my devotionals with them or sharing my products or my company. He would love that because let me tell you what he wants. The devil wants to keep the angry angrier. He wants to keep the sad sadder. He wants to keep the poor poorer. You know what I'm saying? He wants to keep the fat fatter, right, and we're all fighting. I mean, he wants to keep, that's what he wants, because in that moment those people are, or what, he doesn't want you to have hope. He doesn't. And no matter what he wants, I want you to know there's hope. I need you to know there's hope. I need you to know that we were not put here to just struggle the rest of our lives, but we were here to figure out, if we do have a struggle, how are we going to handle the struggle? Because, see, people are watching all the time, even if they don't say anything. People are watching. People are watching, how do I handle something? And can I tell you, not all the time. Not all the time have I handled everything. When I look hindsight, right? I should have handled that better. Remember the cancer scare? I was such a literal, more than a hot mess during that. Did I think people saw me and they thought, here's God's grace is going to come and she's going to embrace it and she's going to know that things are going to be okay. But see, that's not what happened. What happened is doubt and fear and anger and anxiety, and all of that got into my head. And I had to decide that I was not going to let that creep into my heart. I had to decide that I was going to do better, because every time that I chose to do better, even if I got knocked down, even if I heard what I didn't want to hear, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what is going on, God's grace is sufficient for me. And if it's sufficient for somebody like the likes of me, can I tell you it's sufficient for you? It is. Because in 61 years, I can't think of anybody who's messed up the way that I have messed up in life. There are times I should have made decisions sooner, and I didn't, because I just wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be. And all I did was hurt myself when I knew that God was leading in a different direction. I was the person who would ask God for an answer, right? But what I was really asking him for is to go with my answer, to go what I wanted, to go with my scenario. Sometimes that's what happens. That's what you want. Good morning, Rosie. Good to see you. Let me look a little bit of this. Not all these are coming up. I'm not ignoring you guys, so that you know. My comments on my computer are not coming up. Let me look. Oh, good morning, Lori. I see Lori there. How much putting you have had on me always. Don't make me cry, Stephanie. Okay, stop. I'm going to have to go back and read some of these later. Stacy, hey. I see you. Please say hi. And if you have a prayer request, please drop it if you want to share, even if it's unspoken. I'm real good at praying for unspoken. Like, God, you don't even have to bring me into the drama. God, I don't need to know who's sick. I don't need to know who cheated on who. The drama's sometimes but anyways, I don't need to know all that. I don't need to know what you cannot share. What I need to know is that you need prayer. And I know we all do, but I am a firm believer that when we pray specifically for a person, I believe that God stands up and pays attention, because I believe that I'm that annoying person that when somebody says, Molly, could you pray for me? And then every time I stop in the moment and I'm like, hey, God, in case you didn't hear me, which is ridiculous, in case you didn't hear me, you remember Stephanie was this, Lori was this. God, you remember Janice, God, remember there's a surgery. God, remember these things, God. And I'm pretty sure he's there shaking his head like, I heard you the first time, but I really love the fact that you love them so much, you want to make sure. I imagine these conversations sometimes that God is having with me, because if I don't, I can't quite figure out at all how he would even love the likes of me. That's the truth. because I feel like I'm probably the one he has to put extra watchdogs on to make sure that I don't go crazy over here with something like, okay, you go ahead, watch her. Give her extra security today. We're going to need it. Rosie says, good morning. You're hitting it. The devil will hit you at your lowest point. Oh, isn't it true? Lee says, people who want to silence you are simply afraid of the impact you are making on others. I think so, baby. What if I would, that's why God gave me Lee. There are a couple of people in my life right now. I'm going to call them out, and one of them isn't going to be on here at all. I know he's not, but in the season that I'm in right now, I am in a season in my life. That's what I call them, seasons. Does that mean a decade? Does it mean like just another year? I don't know, because the seasons are different. Kind of like the weather in North Carolina, where we're getting snow and we're not supposed to get snow, but we get it, so it's a season. It's gone now, thankfully, but I don't know what's going to show up next, right? And there are two people who righteously in my life keep me zoned in on life, and that would be my husband, of course, first, and Mr. Steve Bosson. And many of you know him. Many of you know Steve, and I have always loved Steve from the moment I met him, which was so many years ago. And I am grateful enough and blessed enough to be able to partner with him in this new business that I'm in. And I say new, but in March it's going to be a year. And what a great decision. I'm just going to say that. What a great decision. But sometimes I am the person that is, you all always say, oh, Molly, I just wish that I was as brave as you, or I was this. No, guys, it's not brave. It's not any of that. And I'm the person, I would love to go, oh, I know, I am brave. Yeah, I'm smart. Yeah, I do not overthink things. I would love to tell you that's me, but that would be a lie. A lie. Because I am the person that is so imperfect in some of those areas. Like, Molly, you really believe in yourself. And I'm like, no, I really don't all the time. If you want to know what my biggest battle is, um, it's it's me. I get in my way more than anybody else could. One person can say something, act a certain way, ignore me, whatever, and you know what? It keeps me thinking like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Oh no. Or how about this? Um, I have a hard time believing that I'm worthy. Hey, Brooke, I'm going to call you, baby. Busy, busy morning. I just saw you pop on here. I did see Brooks. I'm going to call you, honey. Just crazy Tuesdays. And Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays too. Monday too, Brooke, but I'll fit you in. I will, because I have to, because you're my girl. So, anyways, okay, now that I got that out of the way, perfect in my book. And Brooke, why you think that I'm perfect, because Brooke can absolutely relate to me in so many ways, that we try so hard to put a guard up, and we tell others, don't let it bother you. And the point is, we constantly have to get back up, and we have to say, I'm going to be better than just what just happened to me. I'm going to be better than the person who just did this to me. As much as I want to throat punch the person, I can say that because it's real. It's real. And if you haven't felt that way, you're lying. You're lying. You're lying. If you ain't lying, you're dying. And we all dying, okay? I am just saying. I am just saying. Sometimes you just want to throat punch the person. But I know that's not the thing to do, because I do not look good. I do not look good in prison orange. Okay? Or orange, I think I look pretty. I know I'm scrolling. I do think I look pretty good in orange, but maybe not prison orange. But you know what I realized? That you know what? God wants me to act the way he wants me to act, and he wants me to respond the way he wants me to respond. But let me be honest. But he wants to know that when I don't respond appropriately, that I recognize it, that I ask for forgiveness, which is a lot. Okay, it is a lot. but that I do realize that He has given me a platform and He has given me an audience. I haven't done this. Life has produced things in my life that make you identify with me. That's the truth. Hey, Debbie. Debbie says you give a lot of inspiration. Debbie, I certainly hope so. And I hope it's the good parts of it, my friend. I hope that when you're looking for inspiration, I think a lot of people go, Daggone, did you hear Molly's story on X, Y, and Z? Dude, I got this thing I'm going through, right? I think those are the things that God uses in my life more than anything else. Oh my gosh, do you know that Molly left a company? Actually, I was dismissed, okay? But the point is, left a company that she was almost 21 years at, and she started something new. I mean, who does that at 61 years old? But the backstory on that, y'all, the backstory on that is the fear and the doubt that alone I couldn't do that. I had to make sure that God was in that move. I had to make sure that God still had a plan for me with all the people who had come to trust me and embrace me and look to me in the other company, right? And that's when I realized that God did not just give me a following because of Avon. God used Avon. Thank you, Lord. He used Avon to help me establish those relationships, those connections. The fact that these are people who would have never been in my life. Thank you, Lord, that they found a different reason to follow me and to love me. And even for my haters, can I tell you, I love you so much. Whether it's jealousy, whether it's just the fact that maybe I said something you didn't like, because every time my name leaves your lips, you turn somebody else on to me. And it must be something that God wants. So, you know what? So, even the haters in your life, God can use them. He can use them. You don't have to go about defending yourself. Do you know that sometimes I try to change who I am to make other people more comfortable? Have you ever done that? Have you ever done that? Hold on one second. I need to look at something. I thought I saw a prayer request on here. Hold on. Molly, you have no idea how much impact you have on us. I'm having a bad day and I'm sitting here listening. Oh my gosh. Lori, it's okay, baby. We all have them. We all have them. It's okay. Um, okay, maybe oh, wait a minute. Prayers to all that are suffering. 100%. Hold on. I'm going to be back. I promise. Darlene, thank you for being here. Please pray for my husband. 3 weeks in hospital with infection that's preventing the replacement. Okay, everybody. Darlene's husband is in the hospital. Needs a valve replacement. He's got an infection. We need we need God to intervene here. We need God to put the right doctors, the right meds, the right everything. We need God to work here. So today, if you don't put any other prayer list on your list, could you just pray for Darlene's husband? Pray for Darlene too, because it's tough when somebody you love is going through something. Yeah, been there so many times, Darlene, and not, but not with my spouse. As close as I've gotten to that is when Lee was diagnosed and um, with his blindness. But listen to me, Darlene. God knows. I don't know what this looks like. I can't tell you what the outcome is, but I know that if we pray and we place your husband in God's hands, that He's really there, even when you're not getting the answers that you want. God is there. Let Him embrace you. Let Him give you peace no matter what, because He will. He will. But in the meantime, I'm going to be doing that pray thing where I'm like, Darlene's husband. I'm going to be doing that, okay? Um, you're, you're on my list. You're on my list. And so many others that are here. Yeah, Brooke, you're right. Haters will hate and love wins. But let me get back to, I will try to change myself to make somebody else feel better. I will try to shadow myself to give somebody else the light. I don't think that's a problem. The problem is when you do it because you don't think that you're worthy. And I have a big hang up with that. I do that crap all the time. But then I get mad at myself when I do it, right? I do. It's like, I feel like sometimes I'm almost backhanding God, that God is giving me so many opportunities to be better. God didn't make me better. God gave me the opportunities to be better. When I was a waitress early on, when I was 18, 19 years old, and had been waitressing and moved up in the restaurant and did the ordering and of course knew how to cook, right? And the managers and the owners really liked me, and I was so blessed that they did. And yet, but the customers would come in and they liked me. And there was a doctor who owned a practice, and he said, I would love to have somebody for you just to greet my people who come in, whether they're sick, whether they're not. I would love you. Would you think about coming to work for me? And I thought, that's crazy. And of course I loved waitressing, and here's the truth: I loved waitressing because I love people. And most, though there are some people I'm not so in love with, okay? I think everybody's got them, but the majority of the people I completely love, right? I love them. And that was such a big deal for me that I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, because I want to really love what I do. What I love working with people who come in who are sick, getting their information, helping them with their insurance stuff, all of that, I don't know. And I was scared because I had to learn to be a waitress, right? This is going to be something new. I knew them people because he was my doctor too. I knew that I was going to have to sit in front of computers and stuff, and I did not do that, right? So I love the fact that, like, I did it scared. I jumped in. I said, okay. Through doing that, that opened the doorway for so many things. First, I came on and I was a receptionist, and I helped people pray for Harry. Darlene, thank you for giving me his name, Harry. Everybody pray for Harry. Please, if you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay so I know you were here if you want me to know. But pray for Harry, because that is Darlene's light. That's her husband. And she wants him to get better, and she wants him to get this replacement. They got to get that infection out of there. So could you pray for Harry today, that God will use the doctors and that he will be healed so he can get what he needs? That's what we're praying for sure. Um, so he used this deal with me. I ended up learning the insurance industry, because then they put me in insurance, and then they put me in their, what they called their he had a little, like, what we would call now, like, like the emergency room things that are all over the place now, where don't have to go to the hospital. He had one of those when it wasn't even cool. He had like a walk-in type thing. And I love that. And I learned how that worked. And then he had, listen to this. This is going to freak you out, because when I think about it, it freaks me out. Back then, he was one of the first doctors in the area. Him, Dr. Pillar, and Dr. Ron Medlin. They had a health and wellness that they were starting. They called it the Institute of Health and Wellness. And they did things like, for the state, they did counseling, they did vitamins and supplements, things that people hear about now. I'm talking about like selenium, and things that you would think with this new company, maybe it would be really new to me. But when we were learning about that, I was working. I did not know that some of that knowledge from years ago, when I was in my 20s, was going to come back to know, even today as I work with Market America and their isotonics line and everything that they do to try to get people well and to get them healthy again, that it was going to come into play so it made better sense to me. You think that God cannot use what's gone on in your past? He has used that just as much as me losing my mom when I was 16. He has used that to help others who were angry with their mom. And when I look at them and I say, I'm really sorry that your mom made you so angry, but I am really glad that you still have a mom here to be angry with. Because I would give anything to have a mom to be angry at this moment. Because I didn't have a mom there trying to tell me what to do, right? And my dad had just, I don't know, my dad was just doing my dad thing. He was taking care of himself. And I didn't have that. When people would go, my dad is so overbearing. He doesn't let me do anything. And I thought, I wish my dad cared enough not to want me to do something. See, this journey that I have walked to feel like I can come and share with you, and not always my stuff, because we share Liza's stuff. Look, I find people that I love and I want to turn you on to them because I am not the only person here who can help you, right? So when I find these people that I feel a connection with, like, I want you to know about them. So all these things that during the time that I was feeling so low and becoming bitter and becoming angry, and I was a very, very angry tall elf, not elf, but angry tall elf when my mom died, because I felt like it just destroyed my family or what I knew of my family. And I blamed God. And I didn't like anybody who told me anything different. Um, I believe that I believe when they say God can use anything. I specifically heard this again just recently. God can use anything, even the worst things in your life. And the founder of my company, Market America, uh, Lauren Reidinger, mad respect for this lady. And I haven't even known her that long, but mad respect. She recently wrote a book about grief, but more importantly, about getting back up after grief. It's called Scrambled or Sunny Side Up. The release is February 11th. Now, the backstory very quickly on that is that Lauren lost her husband a few years ago suddenly. Suddenly. Just, they were on vacation. He died. And talk about just sending an earthquake, not just in her family's life, but in this amazing company that they had built for years and years and years. And I believe probably, and I haven't read the book yet, I've only read the first chapter. I've been lucky enough to read the first chapter, and I can't wait to read the rest. But I believe that while she was sinking in her grief, there were people who didn't want her to stay there. And she decided to try to figure out what had happened, what she could do, which was one option: get back up. Get back up and continue the journey, continue the path that God had given her and JR together. That all sounds easy, right? But it's not when you lose the love of your life. It's not when your world is turned upside down. It's not when you just can't see anything but what you don't have anymore. It was my mom. It was her husband. Two completely different things, and I'm sure different feelings. But you know what? All the same, it was grief. And Lauren could have chose for that to make her bitter and to say, you know what, I'm done. Company's made enough money. I don't care. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And instead, she pulled the pieces back together. And she said, I am going to continue what the man that I love and I started so many years ago. And I am going to show others that when you've been that blessed to even have the years that she had with him and to do the things that they did to help so many people, that the job was not over. The calling was not over. Not by a long shot. And she said, step by step, piece by piece, we are going to get back to what JR and I set out together to do. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I didn't know all of this. But when I realized why something was placed in my path, when things started turning not so good on the other side of what I had always known for 20 years, and I started looking the year before, this fell in my lap at the exact right time. Because God said, Molly, I know it feels like grief to you. I know you're mourning what you had and you feel like it's being taken away from you and you feel like you have no control and you feel like you're not making a difference. But Molly, I'm not done with you. Because there's a couple people over here that I need you to know about, and I'm going to pave a way for you to find out about this company, and you can be used. You can be used for greater things. Health in my 20s, health now, making people beautiful, making people feel better. It's their choice, but to have something that I could do. See, he can use any circumstance, but the only circumstances that I can use to show you that can be done, as scary as it is, and I'm not always the brave one, but it takes me a while to be brave. Like, I got to sit there and reason with myself to be brave. I'm like, okay, God, would you like to hit me over the head with a 2x4? Would you like to catapult me over to where you want me? But if you want to take this exit here, it's okay. See, that's me. But God said he wasn't going to give up on me, but he needed me to not want to give up on me. He needed me to decide that I was not going to be done. That I was going to find my voice again. People who lose people, they think they can't go on when they lose that person. I'm here to tell you that will be true if you let it be true. But it does not have to be true. You don't have to stay bitter. You don't have to stay seated in the loss. You don't have to stay seated in the pain or the grief. Oh, it's always there. It doesn't go away. You think I still don't have a hole in my heart when I lost my mom? When I lost my brother? Of course I did. But it doesn't mean that God can't take bad things and hard things. Doesn't mean he can't take it and use it for something better. And sometimes it's because somebody's watching you and how you're dealing with it. You don't know how many people, or maybe you were one of them, but you don't know how many people came to me and said, Molly, this whole thing, when things went bad with Avon and all of this, you don't know how much respect I have for how you handled it. You know, some people said, if I had been you, I would have slammed them. If I had been you, I would have done this, I would have done that. And you know what? It took me a while. You think I didn't think about it? I'm not going to lie to you now. I haven't lied to you back. Of course I did. Here's the truth. Without that 21 years with Avon, with the company that I knew then, I would not have what I have now to offer. I had to learn all those mistakes, all the times I got back up, and so many of you got back up with me. So many of you said, yep, we're going to do this. We're going to make this work. So many people said we're going to do that. And yes, I did hit a time when I realized different owners, different this. You know what? It's not the same again. It's never going to be. Can I live with that? Can I not live with that? What did I have to do to keep a roof over my head, right? But to say that I'm not okay with what I had for the time that I had it, there are many of you who would love for me to say that and slam. I'm not. Because without that part of my journey, I'm not here. I don't bring the experience to a new company. I don't. People go, oh, but you're starting over. But am I? But am I really? I mean, yes. But am I? Because the way I see it, I was starting over with almost 21 years of experience. And if I go back much further, because that was in my 40s, that we're coming full circus, there was a circus there too. Full circle to the fact that back in the day, when scared, I jumped into the practice with Dr. Pillar, and there was wellness, and there was this, and there was that there, that when I look at this and I go, how does that happen? But God. So don't feel bad for me. I have people go, I'm so sorry this happened. It wasn't fair. You're right. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. You're right. It wasn't right. It wasn't. But God said, give me a minute. Be patient. My time, Molly, not yours. God is going to use this. Do not let bitterness root, Molly. Do not let bitterness root, because if you do, you will miss the pathway. Do not let fear root, Molly. Do not let anxiety root, Molly. I know you're going to feel it. I know you're going to experience it. But Molly, something bigger is waiting for you if you decide that you're going to walk the right path. Keep your head up. Do it the right way. Have ethics. Have moral. Don't trash. Don't do any of it. Look, I can agree or disagree with what's happening, policies, this or that. Doesn't matter. I still don't have a say on it, right? But I think God saw my discontent. And I think God felt like I was not being used any longer. And I think that God also found out that I will do anything I have to do to keep a roof over my kids' head when they need me, my husband's head, my sister-in-law's head, all of that. Anybody, I will do anything to make sure, because when I was out there Ubering and I was out there door dashing, and the hours became longer and longer with that, God said, I see you. You are a hard worker. You keep doing what you're doing, sis, because I'm going to reward you with something that you haven't even seen the greatness of it yet. And it's going to be scary, Molly, because every learning experience starts with fear. Every great learning experience is knowing that it might not work. It is the unknown. But you have to believe that when something is set in front of you, oh, you still have the choice to walk away from it if you choose. And it doesn't mean that you can't be blessed after you walk away from that. But what's funny is you will never quite know the blessing it could have been had you just stayed through the tough times. Right? That's what happens. Molly, I'm transplanting you, girl. That's what I'm doing. And he did. But bitterness could have stopped that. And in Hebrews 12:15, it says, watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Oof. Watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. Listen. However loss encounters our life, it hurts, right? You can lose your position, you can lose a job, you can lose worse, a child, a spouse. You can lose part of an income. You could lose your home. You can lose your keys. No kidding. Like, I freak out when I lose my keys. Okay. So, like, we can even take the little, we know with anxiety, we know how that works, right? There are things. There are things. I'm sorry. You can lose a pet. Huh. Don't even get me started there. You know, my friend Lisa Monison recently lost her Charlie, and she made a post about it on Instagram. And I don't think she minds me talking about it because she did put it on Instagram. But my heart broke for her. Do you know why? Because I've been there. Not once, but twice. And I thought the first one was bad, but the second one, whoo, Kane, boy, that ripped my guts out. It ripped my heart out. I was in such a not good place in my life then. Things were all amuck, and then I lose Kane. And Kane was that perfect dog that I got from the pound, really, but he was perfect. A boxer that was crazy, and he squirreled just like his mom did. So we fit together, right? But I lost him, I thought, before his time. So loss of a pet, man, I feel Lisa Monison's heart and the heartbreak and the feeling you think you ain't never gonna get over that. And I don't know if you ever really do. But I can tell you that the loss is real. But the pain isn't as great because now I realize that what he gave me during the times that I just needed to talk to him and I knew he couldn't talk back to me. And he would lay right there beside me and love me and lick me with his stinky breath and you know, all the things. He was there for a reason and for a time. It's the thing about animals, they don't live as long as adults. It's a shame because sometimes I like dogs better than I love adults. Yeah. Sue Ann says, please pray for Lance as he starts a new job Monday. Absolutely. Everybody, Sue Ann's husband, Lance, new, new job. And we need it to go well. We need it to go well, and we need all the pieces to line up for that. So we're praying for it. We have lost a lot of people we once hugged and held and allowed the kind of merging of us with them. And whether they walked away, I need you to think about this. Divorce, right? Divorce, friendships that just, for whatever reason, they go. There's loss in all different areas in life. Whether they walked away, moved away, drifted away, whether they were shoved away, because we're all guilty of that, right? Faded away or passed away. The awayness created a phantom feeling where, out of habit, we reach for them, but they're no longer there. We dial their number to no avail. Have you ever done that? Lee has told me, Lee lost his dad not too long ago, and he says, something happens, and I just want to pick up the phone, and I want to call my dad. We were talking about deleting numbers off phone. I've been going through trying to get rid of things that I don't need on my phone, and Lee said, I still can't delete my dad's number. And I said, baby, you don't have to. You don't have to. But that's hard. We dial their number to no avail. We run our fingers across photographs, but can't feel the warmth of their skin, the loss of inside jokes, and shared late night whispers, and conflicts, and carpools, and cookouts, and differing opinions when you just wanted to, again, throat punch them, right? And all the other million little daily ways together is made. The story of our lives include us both. And now, it doesn't, or until it doesn't. Love is also evident that there was once something there, even though it's not there now. And as painful as sitting in fresh loss and grief can be, it can also be, listen, a good cure for bitterness. Don't read that last sentence too quickly, or your brain may transpose the word. Sitting in fresh grief can be the cause of bitterness. No, no, no. While that's true, sometimes how you got into a dark cave is actually the solution to finding your way out of the dark cave. If loss was the way bitterness got in, maybe revisiting grief will help provide a way out. First, let me state the obvious that this seems strange because loss and the resulting grief are often the cause of bitterness. I get it. When your loss became so personal because of another person's foolishness, selfishness, meanness, irresponsibility, sorrow can quickly invite bitterness you didn't even know you were capable of. Guys, there are people out there who have lost people because they got into a car intoxicated. And whether they took somebody else's life or it took their life, sometimes you're just angry. Why did he do that? Why did he get in the car under the influence? Why didn't he call me? Why didn't he call somebody? Why? And then what happens? That can feed in horribly, but that can feed into what it was. But instead of being just an invited visitor, bitterness moves right into the emptiness without permission. See, you don't need to invite bitterness, anger, all of that sadness. You don't need to. It just, it's that human nature, man. It wants to come in. It wants to sink in, and it wants to root. At the time, you may not have realized it or recognized what it was, because at first, bitter feelings can feel quite justifiable and oddly helpful. Over time, bitterness doesn't just want to be something that awakens some feeling. It wants to become your only feeling. Bitterness doesn't just want to room with you. It wants to completely consume everything about you. Hebrews 12:15 warns us, watch out that no poisonous root of bitterness grows up to trouble you, corrupting many. It doesn't say that you won't have bitterness. It says, watch out that no poisonous root. Don't let it root. It's not that you won't feel it, but when you let it root, there is a problem. You see, bitterness wears the disguises of other chaotic emotions that are harder to attribute to the original source of hurt. There isn't an ounce of desire in my heart to evoke any kind of condemnation or throw any sort of guilt in your direction. I'm too busy managing my own emotions around this. But what I am saying in the safety of these pages, without any kind of spotlight thrown on you, is this. Just consider where bitterness might have moved into some kind of loss or emptiness in your life. Bitterness doesn't have a core of hate, but rather a core of hurt. Think about that. Bitterness doesn't have a core of hate. It is a core of hurt. This isn't a justification of bitterness, but rather an observation that can help us not feel so defensive. When bitter feelings emerge, they're usually tied to deep complexities of being hurt in deep ways, unfair ways, ways that change so much about life. It's also inconceivable to believe that forgiveness is appropriate. Bitterness isn't usually found in those whose hearts are hard, but rather in those whose hearts are tender. Ooh, listen. Hey, Joy, I see you. Listen to this. Bitterness isn't usually found in those hearts that are hard, but rather in those who are the most tender. Have you ever seen somebody and go, man, I don't know what happened to that person. I don't understand. They're so bitter. Like, they're so angry. Do you realize that most of the time it's not the person you always expected it from? Really think about that. If it's somebody who has always hated life, has always looked at the negative of life, has always seen that the next bad thing is coming, That would be where you expect it, but that's not where bitterness tries to root. See, bitterness wants to root in the hearts of those that are the most tender, that are the most vulnerable. And sometimes that shocks us when we see that. It's not that they are cold, it's that they've been made to feel unsafe. This is a caring person who trusted someone or some people that they should have been able to trust. And they were made to feel like a fool when the trust they gave as a gift was trampled or shattered. The sharp edges left behind from broken trust cut them to their core, and the resistance they now demonstrate towards the people is often pure fear of being hurt again. I don't want to be hurt again. I don't care. I'm closed off. I don't ever want to, I was cheated on. I don't ever want to get married again. I don't want to be in a relationship again. Hardness is often the exact opposite of the way their heart was made to operate, but it's the only way they know to protect themselves. Bitterness isn't an indication of limited potential in relationships. Usually, the bitter heart is the heart with the greatest ability to love deeply. But when you love deeply, you are at the greatest risk of being hurt deeply. Have you ever heard somebody say when they lose somebody, I never want to fall in love again. I never want to get married again. I got news for you. You can't have love without the risk of being hurt. You can't love, you can't embrace without the risk of knowing somebody could turn and do something to you that's going to break your heart. Because without the knowing that that has the ability to happen, you won't open yourself up completely for love, but you will open yourself up for bitterness, because we all want to be loved. But when you put up the cement wall because, oh no, I'm never going to be hurt again, see, you have to realize that loving again is worth the option that you could get hurt again. Felt that way when I went through my first divorce. I never wanted to get involved with anybody again. Didn't want to love anybody again. Didn't want to marry again. That's what I told Lee when I met him. That's what I told everybody. Didn't care. Didn't want it. Never do it again. Don't care. Don't want to love it. It doesn't work when you love somebody with all your heart. When you love somebody with all your heart, they don't love you back. Look what my dad did. You know what? Look, my family is falling apart. I married somebody who I don't still to this day know if he really loved me. My goodness, it just happens. It happens. I just don't want it. I tried to make it work for all these years. Oh, that's exhausting, right? And I could feel even then when I think back the bitterness that was trying to set in for sure. Caged love often has a bitter cry. When you love deeply, you're at the greatest risk of being hurt, and when that deep hurt comes, it seems to cage the love that once ran wild and free. Being bitter shouldn't be equated to being a bad person. It most often is a sign that a person with great potential for good filled the emptiness of their losses with feelings that are natural but not helpful in times of grief. So let me ask you a question. What is bitterness to you? Is it a feeling? Is it a hard heart? Evidence of unprocessed grief? Statements made that hurt because you've been hurt? Maybe bitterness is a combination of all that and more. We will talk more about what to do with our bitterness in the next devotion, but today I want to give you one more possibility for what bitterness is. What if bitterness is actually a seed of beautiful potential not yet planted in the rich soil of forgiveness? Let me say it again. What if bitterness is actually a seed of beautiful potential that's not yet planted in the rich soil of forgiveness? What if? Pause. Choose to sit with all this. The stinging pain of the loss, the sweetness of possibility, the guilt of how you may have weaponized your grief and hurt others, the forgiveness of a compassionate Savior, the honesty that resentment hasn't made anything better or more peaceful, the consideration of how to let tenderness in again, the thrill of more potential healing, the deeper awareness that there's more beauty to see in this world, even in the midst of loss, or better yet, especially because there was loss. So hear me. It's not the loss of a person, but for me, this whole thing was shifting from one company to another. That was loss. It would have been very easy for me to say, and I've seen many people do this, I will never trust this industry again. I will never trust, I will never do, I will never. Was the industry really that bad all that time to me? No, it wasn't. It wasn't the industry. It was decisions of a company that had changed ownership. Does that mean that it could never be good again? That is very, very shallow thinking. You know, I never want another man in my life because I had a man or two wrong me, so I never want that again in my life. Look, I hear you. But did you ever think maybe it's the choice of men? Sometimes it's like we just choose the same bad boys, right? How about choosing something different? How about opening yourself up to somebody who sees your value, not somebody who just wants to get you between the sheets? Sorry, sometimes you just got to call it out. It's like saying every man or every woman is bad. That's not true. It also, you're trying to say there's no redemption for those people. Yes, there is. Yes, there is, if they want it. So, do you really want to use all that energy to be bitter? See, I didn't. It was like, let it go, Miley. Took me a minute. Took me a minute. Y'all know it took me a minute. Those who followed me, you know it took me a minute. You know. But when you finally let go of it, it can be a really, really good thing. The deeper awareness that there's more beauty to see in this world, even in the midst of loss, or better yet, especially because there is loss. Because without loss, sometimes we don't learn what can be better. We get so sucked into the here and the now and the what if, and there's not always growth. But I can guarantee you, when you lose something or somebody's done you wrong or something hasn't gone how you thought, there is a learning lesson in it. Maybe not right there at that moment, but there is. Here's the prayer. God, I know you are close to me when I'm experiencing loss. Help me process my grief in a healthy way, even in a way that releases bitterness from my heart. Show me where bitterness may be hiding out in me so I can truly move forward in the beauty of forgiveness and release the weight of my hurt and pain from my past. Man, guys. Oh, and you all know, we're still on this. Liza, Seeing Beautiful Again. This book has brought so much understanding for me to look at myself. Can I just say, look at myself? Because it's not just about grief or losing people, but yet it is. It's not just about friendships and what can go wrong, but yet it is. It's about when anything goes wrong in life, how can you possibly see beautiful again? There is always a way with God. We have people here who have shared their pain and what they're going through right now, and yet they're still praying that God will show them something great. I can take Sue Ann's story alone, and I don't even know if she's still on here, but I can take that story and so many things that they have been through, from cars that didn't work and issues with kids and this and that, and I have just watched her consistently ask for prayer. And you know what I figured out watching her story? Is that even when it may not have been the answer that she wanted, she got through it. God got her through it. Got her and Lance through it. because she just kept getting back up and she didn't let the bitterness root. I'm not going to tell you she was never bitter about things that were happening or probably went, God, really? Because I know I do that a lot. Really? This is what's going to be today. Really? You're going to give me this person one more time to deal with. Like, is this ever, why is this person a thorn in my side? Yeah. But she still decided she wanted to get through it. And that's huge. And that's what I try to do every day, even though I mess up. And I know God probably has a permanent look like this, him and Jesus up there, shaking their head like, yeah. And I'm sure he looking at like Peter and the rest of them going, you believe Molly did that? You know, Peter, don't judge me because you were there, Peter. That's what I would say. Peter and I are going to have a conversation one day. It's what it's going to be. It's going to be, let's be real. And he's going to go, oh, Lord, there's that Molly woman who says, let's be real, right? I am praying for you guys. And what I'd like to do right now is just say a prayer. And just, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. A little prayer never hurt anybody. So if Facebook don't like it, that's okay. If you don't like it, you can keep scrolling. Um, but I'm a firm believer in the power of prayer. And I think everybody could use a little prayer, little Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So let's do this. Dear Lord, we thank you for this time of devotions. We thank you for Liza Turkhurst, God. She is so wise due to the paths that she has traveled and so honest about how she didn't do it all right. And I think that resonates with so many of us, God. Lord, there are so many of us here who have uncertainties in our life right now. People are sick. People are in hospitals. People have had, I think about our friend Linda Daniels, who to believe has a niece who is going through such health struggles right now. And God, we are just taking all these people and we are placing them, God, at your feet. We are asking, God, that you embrace them, but that you'll embrace the people involved too. Because God, we don't know what the outcomes of any of this is, but you know what we would like, God. And we always get what we ask for. No, but God, we know that you can use anything and that you can give people the strength and the comfort and the understanding and that you can help direct them away from the bitterness and the anger and the grief, and you can help with making them better in time. God, if there's anybody here who doesn't know you, God, please direct them to me or somebody else and just let them know that they are worthy, God. They are worthy to say, Jesus, forgive me for anything I've done because I want to be promised that I have my place in heaven one day. The good people think they can just be good, and boy, don't we all try to be good, God, but there is only one way through salvation of your son dying on the cross. God, please, please let this touch somebody's life. Let it touch their life as far as bitterness, to let go of it, to not let it root. God, thank you for using me as a vessel in so many different ways. But God, let people know they're not alone. Let them realize that this 6-foot hot mess woman with crazy hair, that if I can get through the struggles in life and things that have happened and can still wake up and be searching for something to smile about and be thankful for, that God, the anxiety can dissipate and the anger can dissipate, and that you want us to be happy and you want us to live a better life. But God, sometimes we have to go in the direction. We've got to choose it. We got to go through the fire before we can walk in something that you have for us on the other side. So help us with that. Keep everyone safe, Lord, and guard and protect their hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. So what I hope for you is a good day. What I hope for you is, if it's not great, try to find something good. And before you go to bed at night, do what I've been trying to do. I pick three things every day that I am thankful for. Because I can tell you I can pick 15 things that probably didn't go right, right? Pick three things that you're thankful for. I don't care if it's that you got to eat that bowl of ice cream, that you even had ice cream in your freezer, if it's that you got home without being in a car accident, the fact that you just drew a breath, which a lot of people aren't doing without help. Whatever it is, find three things. Be thankful. Know that if you're having a bad day, there's another day coming, you hope, right? So do what you can to make this day as good as you can and recover from it, and try not to root in bitterness. Bitterness can be used for good eventually. You heard me read it, right? I hope it can be for you, because bitterness is exhausting when you let it root. And we all know that if you are suffering from bitterness, that there is a tender heart in there somewhere, just waiting to for the bitterness to let go so that you can love like you used to again. Love you guys. Take care, and we'll see you next week.